Welcome. Today we will be looking at some teaching techniques that can be used to teach the history standards, focusing on the history of Southern and Eastern Asia. Today's standards will ask students to analyze the continuity and change in Southern and Eastern Asia. Overall, we will look into India and Gandhi, Japan after World War II, communism in China, and foreign involvement in Korea and Vietnam. There are several resources that can be used in planning units for all of these history standards. These include biography.com, Stanford University's Reading Like a Historian, and Columbia University's Asia for Educators. Biography.com has a wealth of resources about a wide variety of people. Some resources are print information, and some include video clips. The many biographies on this website are easy to follow and give a quick overview of a person's life. Therefore, they are convenient to use as an introduction or conclusion when discussing people. Some biographies that may be helpful to incorporate are listed here. Some of these people include Mohandas Gandhi and Mao Zedong, who are specifically listed in the standards, while others, like Harry Truman, the president who ordered the dropping of the atomic bombs, can be included to enhance student understanding. Stanford University's Reading Like a Historian is an amazing resource that provides in-depth lessons that give students reading passages and provide teachers with guides to incorporate the readings into the classroom. Here is Stanford University's page on Reading Like a Historian. If you look on the left, you'll see there's different lessons. There's intro materials, there's U.S. history lessons, and world history lessons. For our purposes, we're going to go to world history lessons. Then we have some options. We can go to ancient history, medieval, and modern. Our history standards are linked to modern. There are many different lessons included in modern history. Several of these do relate to standards that we teach, including Indian Partition, the Korean War, and China's Cultural Revolution. Let me show you what you'll see in each one. Let's use China's Cultural Revolution. Here you will see some background information and this area where you can download a lesson plan or you can download the PowerPoints that are associated with the lesson. Let's just do a quick view to see what a lesson plan looks like. Basically, you're going to have a question that's over-encompassing. You'll have some materials. You'll have some lesson instructions. All of the different resources that they refer to, like the PowerPoint slides, they are provided. They refer to documents A and B and handouts. All of those are here. So you have all of your resources that you need. And these provide a great opportunity for students to read information that is historically accurate and is very applicable in the classroom. All of these resources are free to you as teachers. You can create a login, but once again, that's free. Asia for Educators is a resource compiled by Columbia University that provides a variety of ideas for teaching about Asia. Here is Columbia University's Asia for Educators. There is much to find here. However, I want to point out the language arts link. This may not seem like the most logical link for the social studies classroom. However, here you can find lots of text that can be included in the classroom. There are options for teaching through literature for many of the countries that we study in 7th grade. Although many of the items listed here are fiction, they will do a great job at engaging students in the content and giving students a deeper understanding of these countries. For instance, if we look at Korea, 6 through 8, there is a list of books that will relate to Korea. Some of them will relate to things that we study, and some of them deal with other times in Korea's history. But this is a great place to start. There are many resources that can be used in all of the teaching standards. However, there are also some ideas that are specific to one country or another. We'll spend the next couple of minutes examining each country one at a time. First, let's look at India. Some resource ideas for teaching about India include the Teach India project, the GANDHI feature-length movie, and Time's picture timeline. Let's look at these. The Teach India project is a website that gives lots of information about teaching India. This website organizes and provides lessons and resources for teaching India. There is much here on this site that you will not need. However, there are some useful resources. The extra resources can always be incorporated in a variety of creative ways if wanted. Here is TeachIndiaProject.org. There is lots of information here about India. Some of it applicable to our standards, some of it not. I do want to point out the link here for lessons, and you'll notice a list of lessons. Some are just an overview of India, but there is a lesson on GANDHI, and there's a lesson on monsoons, which can also be related to the flooding standards of the environmental issues in India. There are many video resources that can be found online or available for order. However, I want to point out the feature-length movie named GANDHI. This award-winning PG movie was made in 1982. Because it is 3 hours and 10-minute movie, you would need to carefully consider if and when you would use this movie. However, using some of the clips from this movie may be very appropriate in the classroom. Another interesting way to introduce students to Gandhi and his life is through Time Magazine's photo gallery. This gallery provides images of Gandhi along with descriptions and explanations about the pictures of his life. This is a great self-guided discovery for students. A note-taking guide could help students focus their learning, or you may have students pick the one picture that is most meaningful to them and complete a writing assignment. Let's move on to Japan. In teaching Japan and the United States' role in rebuilding after World War II, there are several assignments that can be helpful. The first is a DBQ, or document-based question. The second are writing prompts. There are several document-based questions already created that are fairly easy to access online. One that is noteworthy is the Morningside Center for Teaching Social Responsibility, Teachable Moments. This is a practice DBQ on the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it presents students with 6 short readings and 1 set of images for students to examine. This would be a great activity for a museum walk. Place the items around the room, hallway, or school. Have students move from document to document answering questions as they go. This movement is great for middle school students. After examining the documents, there's a writing prompt provided, or you can create the prompt of your choosing. Here are some other suggestions for students to write. First, have students assume the role of President Truman. Have them make the call to drop the atomic bombs or not. Second, students should evaluate reasons for rebuilding the country of Japan and whether or not that was the most appropriate role for the U.S. to take. The next country examined in the history standards of Southern and Eastern Asia is China, and the role that communism has played, including Mao Zedong, the Great Leap Forward, the Cultural Revolution, and Tiananmen Square. Some specific teaching ideas include a compilation of images from Communist China and some teaching resources from Georgia State. Let's look at this site, Everyday Life in Maoist China. There are photographs and propaganda images used during the Great Leap Forward, the Cultural Revolution, and during Tiananmen Square. Many images are of Mao Zedong. These images could be useful to share with students to have a full understanding of Communist China. Back at the top, to help you sort and find images that would be most useful to you, use the categories on the right. This will allow you to choose images from a certain year. The images can be used as a compare and contrast, what did the government depict versus what was really happening, or as a writing prompt for students to make observations from and create opinions of the various times in China's history. A Georgia-based resource of teaching ideas can be found from Georgia State. This article promotes using literature to teach about the Cultural Revolution. These include Mao's Last Answer, Revolution is Not a Dinner Party, Little Green, Growing Up in the Chinese Cultural Revolution, Snow Falling in Spring, Coming of Age in China During the Cultural Revolution, and Red Scarf Girl. These are a mix of everything from memoirs to fiction. A lesson plan is provided here for Red Scarf Girl. Depending on your students, you may choose to use one or all of these pieces of literature. Since there is such a great variety, it may be possible to have different groups read different books, and then have each group create a presentation for the class. This will allow for the class to have exposure to multiple viewpoints of the Cultural Revolution without reading every book. Let's move on to Korea and Vietnam and the reasons for foreign involvement in terms of containment and communism. Some ideas here to examine include lessons from the GeorgiaStandards.Org and a compare and contrast activity. The GeorgiaSociety.org website has many resources if you want to dig into Korea in great detail. Here's GeorgiaSociety.org. For our purposes today, I want to point out the Education tab and Educational Resources. Here there are several educational resources and lesson plans that can be used to teach various times in Korea's history. Another meaningful activity for students to complete is a compare and contrast of foreign involvement in Korea and Vietnam. If students can complete this, then they truly understand the reasons behind foreign involvement. Students should first complete a visual organizer, such as a Venn diagram or double bubble map. Then students can turn this visual into a writing. Check with your language arts teacher. There may be a writing that can be used in more than one class. As we conclude, remember to include a variety of activities in your unit to meet different learning styles and needs. Feel free to use or modify these activities to meet your teaching style and students. Good luck to you as you plan your upcoming Asia History unit.